Hello students, I'm Dr. Sonia Korbansal. Welcome to Canviar School of Education, Suresh Canviar University. And today's my topic is problem-based learning. And my learning objective are students to tell you about what is problem-based learning. You will be able to define and explain as well as understand what is problem-based learning and what would be the role of a teacher in problem based learning. So I really hope that you will understand attentively and you will really enjoy the lecture. So let's start problem based learning. Now first of all, let's have a look on this picture, students. And what does this picture tell you? Just think about it. There is one student and there is one teacher, as we can see. And the teacher is telling the student, you have to solve this problem by yourself. You can't call uh, tech support. So this is something, that problem is there and the child is learning, and how he is having the technical support in his hands for solving the calculation. Okay, so now let's learn it. Problem based learning, PBL. So PBL, when we talk about PBL, we talk about Skinner also, as it is given by him. So the problem solving is a process of overcoming difficulties that appears to interfere with the attainment of goal, and it is a procedure of making adjustment in spite of interferences. So here the teacher is not going to make any kind of interference when the child is learning. Rather, the teacher is going to make the support. So problem solving is like, just take a little bit of creativity and add a dash of innovation and sprinkle in some critical thinking. So this would be a recipe makes for a well-rounded and engaged student who is ready to tackle life beyond the classroom. And beyond the classroom, as a teacher, as a parent, you will not be everywhere. So students are going to learn the concepts, whatever the teacher is teaching, by handling the problems themselves. So it's called problem based learning, and it teaches concepts and inspires lifelong learning at the same time. So this open ended problem based learning style presents students with a real world issue and asks them to come up with a well constructed answer. They can tap into online courses, use their previously taught knowledge, and ask questions to brainstorm and present a solid solution. Unlike traditional learning, there might not be just one right answer, but the process encourages young minds to stay active and think for themselves. So this is how, now if we talk about problem based learning, so it's a teaching style that pushes students to become the drivers of their learning education. I hope you are understanding, students. So this is how problem based learning is defined. The principal idea behind problem based learning is that the starting point should be a problem, a query, or a puzzle that a learner wishes to solve. This is given by DJ Bound in 1985, and this really has the target that students are solving their problems while learning the concepts. Okay, students. So features of PBL or problem based learning, we are going to discuss about them. So first of all, learning is initiated by a problem. So when there is a problem, the mind is more activated. It is more thought provoking. So it is the main feature of PBL that learning is always started with a problem. And when the students are handling the problem, they are experiencing different things, and they are actually taking those problems in a very good spirit to solve them so that they can learn the concepts. And the problems might be anything. The problems are based on complex real world situations. and this will actually help them to more and more applying their knowledge, whatever they have learned in theoretical form, to the practical form. Okay, students? Now, learner finds the solution. Another feature of this problem is learner is actually more and more enthusiastic to learn the concept. So that's why he is going to find the solution as well. So this is how it is working in a very good way. Then all informations required for problem solving is not given initially. So it is kept with teacher only. So whatever the problem is actually from a complex situation or a real situation is there, so it is actually understood by the student in stepwise. All the informations are not placed before the student so that the student is easily able to solve the problem. So learner has to identify, find and use appropriate resources. He has to think in that way that what kind of problem is this and how I'm going to solve it. What resources would be useful for solving this problem? So, problem based learning is something that is actually giving a student a complete chance for thought provoking and a wonderful reasoning, logic, and analyzing and synthesizing of the brain. So, it is enhancing the cognitive part of learner. Then, learning is active, integrated, cumulative, and connected. Many times in the classroom, we have felt as a teacher that some of the students are very smart, very active, proactive, and they are learning the concepts very nicely. On the other hand, there are some students who are sitting passively. They might be listening or might not be listening. That is very dicey. But when you keep the problem in front of someone, then mind itself becomes very active to solve that or to overcome from the problem. So learning becomes active here and it is integrated with the previous knowledge also. And it is cumulative and connected as well. So students work in a permanent group when solving the problems. So this is really very interesting if the students are learning by their own, but if they are working in a group, so it would be really very good and effective in building up their capacities. All right, students, I hope you are understanding this much. Now, use of PBL. Now, let's understand how we are going to use the PBL, problem based learning. So, first of all, to acquire subject matter knowledge. So, it is not easy, students, that we are easily going to deliver the content to the students and they are learning as well. So, the teacher has to be prepared mentally that there are many students that who are not attaining the knowledge as you wish, as you made your objectives. So acquiring subject matter knowledge is really very important. So for that purpose, problem based learning is very essential. So it motivates learners to learn. And if they're learning in real life situations, in experiencing mode, they are learning better. It helps learners with retention. So when the child is learning something by solving the problem, it is actually definitely increasing his retention power. Retention to maintain the knowledge, memory of subject matter, whatever the child has learned. All right, students. Now, next is it is very helpful, useful in developing students' thinking skills. As I have told you that there may be many students in the classroom who are actively learning. But on the other side, there may be some students who are not actively learning, but they are passively listening, and but they might not be listening. This may be also the situation. So in that case, the students are actually forced to think, and in that way, their thinking skills are developed in a very good manner. So, developing students' key skills relevant to employment, such as interpersonal communication skills, these are really very important. So, students just understand that if any child is learning and if any child is facing some problem, the child is actually facing some problems, and with those problems the child is learning how to solve the problem as well. So this is really very interesting for the teacher, that teacher is placing some problem and the child is learning. So this is developing his thinking skills. The child who is very smart enough in following teacher's commands, but the child doesn't follow that, so it becomes mandatory for the child to develop his thinking skills in a very good way, because this can shape in a variety of different ways. Problem based learning uses complex real world issues as the classroom subject. So when the classroom subject is being taught, the real issues are there. So teacher encourages to learn the subject matter, encouraging students to develop problem solving skills and learn concept instead of just absorbing facts inside. All right, students, and this can really shape in a variety of different ways. For example, a problem solving project could involve students pitching their ideas and creating their own business plans to solve a societal need. That need that they are feeling that there is a need, but adults might not be feeling that there is any need. So students could work independently or in a group to conceptualize, design, and launch their innovative product in front of classmates and community leaders. All right, students. So this is how it is developing the thinking skills, and it is really very mandatory thing for the students to develop their thinking skills, because this actually involves cognitive part. And if the cognitive part is not well developed, then how can you just imagine that student is going to learn the another parts also. So once again, it is really very important in thinking skills, and all the teachers must work very hard in developing the thinking skills of the students. Clear, students? Now, next use of PPL is to foster professional competencies and confidence together with professional identity. So this is something that sooner or later, when the child is getting education, the child will be developing into a professional personality. And in profession, there are many problems in day-to-day workplace situations or anything dealing with the time-to-time situation. So these competencies are actually required when they are working in real situations. And by problem based learning, they are building up their confidence by solving the problems. So it will enhance their professional identity. Clear, student? And then mirroring the interdisciplinary team process, graduates will use in work and research. So linking theory and practice, that's really very important. Learning everything in theoretical form and nothing at all in practical form will really create a huge gap in knowledge receiving. So application of the knowledge is really must, and it can be possible only through if the brain is active and solving some problems in practical form. So whatever the theories are there, principles are there, whatever the child has learned in the real classroom situations, now the child is supposed to solve those problems based on those principles and theories. So this is really very useful technique to teach the students to enhance their learning, enhance their competencies, fostering their professional competencies and confidence together with professional identity. Then next, it encourages learners to integrate knowledge from different subjects, disciplines, and resources or sources. So it is really very helpful when the problem is there in front of the student. So it's natural that child is seeking help from anywhere, either from different subject or discipline or any other source. The child is actually focused on solving that problem. So having a sense of belonging and friendship is also there, because group work is also maintained in problem based learning. So adjustment qualities are also enhanced. sharing is enhanced. So there are many good things that we actually develop through problem based learning. Having a sense of fun while learning, it's really very important to keep students engaged, keep students active, and moreover it's really very important to keep them interested throughout the content delivery. So problem based learning, when the students are having fun with each other and solving any problem, it is making their bonding more strong, and it is inculcating their societal values in a more good way. Okay students, so this is the use of PBL or problem based learning. Now it's also very useful in expressing in operational form a philosophy of learning that is student centric and problem focused. So this is problem focused and how it is actually solving the problems. So it's really very good in expressing in a operational form. So next is, let's have a look on the PBL cycle. How is it working? Problem based learning process. So there is a problem. If there is a problem students, then there comes lot of ideas how to solve that problem. In general life also, if you are facing any problem, then you will be having a lot of ideas. Okay, we can do this, we can do this, we cannot do this, we can avoid this, or we can include this. So ideas are there. Then second cycle, it goes towards knowledge of ideas or concepts, what you are thinking, you are really well versed with that or not. Are you really thinking in a practical form? Do you have knowledge of that problem or the dimensions of that problem? Then learning issues are there. So learning issues are there when they what is there in their experiences in real life situations. So they are actually constantly proceeding towards learning, and then course of action starts and problem is there and problem is solved also. So this is how PBL cycle is really very good in understanding the problem based learning process. Now, next, let's discuss this previous cycle. The previous cycle starts with applying, planning, effective use of learning. The second step is experiencing, activity phase. So the second step is experiencing, activity phase. So this is how this cycle is going to do some activity. Experience is very important for students because until unless they are understanding from real experiences, they are not going to solve that problem. And if they are not going to solve that problem, they might not be understanding the concept in a proper desired way as it is done by the teacher. Then the third step involves sharing, and it involves share exchanging of reactions and observations within the group. The fourth step includes processing, discussing patterns and dynamics. The fifth step relates to generalizing, developing, and real world principles. So this is how all the steps are really very important in understanding. So students, just remember this PBL cycle actually motivates the students to learn more effectively, to learn in a very good way with all the 5 steps. So we can say that for sharing, for processing, for generalizing, all these steps are really very needed for the students understanding and learning as well. Now let's understand problem solving is a method of teaching, how it is actually very useful in teaching the concepts. So purpose of problem solving, let's understand, to train the students in the act of reasoning, to give practical knowledge, to discover new knowledge. It's really very important for the students to understand the reasoning part of any content. And learning only in theoretical form is not sufficient. Nowadays, practical knowledge is really very much required, and as it enhances the competency also. To discover new knowledge as well. Then to solve a puzzling problem, to help overcome the obstacles or interferences in the attainment of objectives, to help in an individual's as well as society's progress. It is really very important. Now, let's understand essential features of problem solving, which are leading to the three main problems. That essential features, the problem should be meaningful. It's not like that any problem you are presenting in front of students and you are just assuming that it is meaningful and the students are going to learn when they solve this. It should be well judged by the teacher that if this the problem is really very meaningful or not, what the students are going to learn after solving it. So it should have correlation with life. Real life situations are never ignored in problem solving method. So it should have proper correlation with life. Then it should arise out of the students' real needs. Real life needs are always actually emphasized in problem solving teaching methods so that they can apply their theoretical knowledge into practical form when they solve their real life situations and problems related with it. Students must possess some background knowledge of the problem. So it is not like that suddenly you are presenting some problem in front of the students and they are going to solve it. So it must be introduced with it properly. The problem should be clearly defined by the teacher in the classroom to all the members of the group. So the solution of the problem should be found out by the students under the guidance of the teachers. So it's not like that we are leaving the student at their own, but they are working, they are solving the problem under the guidance of the teacher, under the good supervision of the teacher. So steps in PBL, let's have a look on that. Now there are 7 stages defined in steps of PBL. So let's have a look. Stage 1 relates to group setting. First of all, teacher is setting the group. How many members in a particular group, how many members are having equal type of caliber or IQ so that their problem is solved. Then problem identification is really very a good step. In that step or stage, the students identify the problem and they define the problem in a very good way. This stage 3 is leading towards idea generation. So what is the idea generation? Idea generation is leading towards from the problem. Whatever the problem is given to students, now the students are having related ideas with them so that their problem can be solved easily. Then self-directed learning is there, synthesis and application is there, and reflection and feedback is there. So facts, ideas, learning issues, action plan. This is the sequence and steps in problem-based learning. I repeat: facts, ideas, learning issues, action plan. Now, PBL process. Let's have it look on this triangle. That is not the clear way. So the arrow point is given the downwards. So there are some points that first of all read and analyze scenario. So how it is brainstorming and how it is gathering information and how it is solving the problem. So first of all, read and analyze the scenario. Secondly, list what you know about the scenario. And then list what you need to know about the scenario. Narrow your list essential questions to specific points. And then analyze options, plans, events, who will do what, when, where, why, and how. Then develop an action plan. Then after that, present and implement your solution. So this is how PBL process is going on. I repeat: read and analyze scenario. You just read everything and analyze what is the problem. Then list what you know about the scenario. What is there in real life situations? What is there? Then list what you need to know about the scenario. What do you want to know? What is your problem? So then narrow your list to essential questions to specific points only. Now comes the time where you are analyzing options of different kinds, plans, events, who will do what, where, when, where, why, and how, and then developing the action plans, and then you will find the solution of the problem. And this will lead to implement and present your solutions. Now, methods and approaches to problem solving. So, inductive method, deductive method, combination of inductive and deductive method. So, how this method and how the method and approaches are useful, let's understand. First of all, inductive method. So the inductive method is a method of development. The student is led to discover the truth about him. So this is inductive method. So general to specific it is going on. So specific truth is being explored by the students. Then it includes observation of the given material, the discrimination and analysis of nothing differences and similarities, and everything is being noted down. And then abstractions and generalizations are also there. Applications or verifications are also there. Then deductive method. So in this method, rules, generalization, and principles are provided to students, and they are asked to verify them with the help of particular examples. So this is how deductive method. Now combined method. Induction is followed by deduction, and deduction is followed by induction. I repeat, induction is followed by deduction, and deduction is followed by induction. So according to Miller, induction is the making of the tools of thought, and deduction is the using of the tools. So this is the combined method. Then get the learners to make suggestions by encouraging them, and give them time to evaluate each suggestions very carefully. Give them time to organize materials, set up an atmosphere of freedom in the classroom. Now let's discuss, students, the role of a teacher in problem solving method or problem based learning. So it's really very important for a teacher to solve the problem. So get the students to define the problem clearly. First of all, it's very important for any teacher to solve, uh, to introduce the students with the problems very clearly. Because if the student is not going to understand the problem, how can he learn? So this is how the problem solving is actually very important. And problem solving will lead to the solution definitely, but students must know what is actually the main problem, because student led learning is one of the most empowering ways to sit students at the forefront of their own educational experiences. So it's really very important for the teacher to develop that skill, thinking skill among the students. Then aid the learners to keep the problem in mind. As I have already told you, students, that here the students are not left alone with the problem. The teacher is working as a supervisor or guide. All right. Now the difference: traditional learning and problem-based learning. What is the difference? Now let's see. In traditional learning, first of all, told what we need to know. Then second step, memorizing it. Then third step, problem assigned to illustrate how to use it, or maybe in the form of evaluation. But now see, in the problem-based learning, problem is assigned first and identify what we need to know. So ultimately it is like learning and applying it to solve the problem. Now let's have a look on the advantages. It improves problem solving abilities of the students. It is student centric rather than teacher centric. So it is an activity of collaboration, students. When we are talking about advantages, there are many advantages that we have seen just now, and we have discussed most of the time we have discussed the advantages, because it has lots of benefits of student led problem based learning. It pushes the students to be innovative, creative, open minded, and logical. It also offers opportunities to collaborate with others in hands-on active way. So students, it's really very important to understand that problem solving abilities must be enhanced among the students. So it is teacher centered is less, but student centric is more. So I really believe that you are understanding it, and so understand that problem as a part of our immersive educational model. We have discovered many benefits of more problem solving learning. So first of all, we can talk that promotes self-learning. It promotes self-learning as a student-centered approach. We are talking problem-based learning pushes kids to take initiative and responsibility for their own learning as they are pushed to use research and creativity. They develop skills and that will benefit them into adulthood. So, highly engaging instead of sitting back, listening, and taking notes, problem based learning puts students in the driver's seat. They have a straight, sharp, apply critical thinking, and think outside the box to solve the problem. Then, another benefit we can discuss, advantage we can discuss, that it develops the transferable skills among the students. The abilities students develop don't just translate to one classroom or subject matter, they can be applied to a plethora of school subjects as well as life beyond that, from taking leadership to solving real world dilemmas. So, improved teamwork abilities. Many problem based learning projects have students collaborate with classmates to come up with a solution. So this teamwork approach challenges kids to build skills like collaboration, communication, compromise, and listening. And then it encourages intrinsic rewards. With problem-based learning projects, the rewards is much greater than simply uh, an A or an assignment. Students earn the self-respect and satisfaction of knowing they have solved a riddle, created an innovative solution, or manufactured a tangible project. So there are many examples of problem-based learning in action as well. So with a little context in mind, it is time to take a look at problem-based learning in the real world. And one of the best parts of the learning style is that it is very flexible for the students and they can adapt it. You as a teacher can adapt it in your own classroom. And students, I'm going to tell you students some examples that are successful stories of problem based learning in action. Now, maritime discovery, like for example, so students explore maritime culture and history through visits to a nearby maritime museum, and they're asked with choosing a specific voyage, researching it, and crafting their own museum display. Throughout their studies, they will create a captain's log, including mapping out voyages and building their own working sextant. Then, second example I can give you, that is urban planning. So perfect for humanities classes. And this example challenges students to observe and interview members of their community and determine the biggest local issue. They formulate practical solutions that they will learn pitch to a panel professional urban planners. Then another example can be zoo habitats. So that this is the scientific example starts with visit to a local zoo. You have given this problem to your students, and students use their observations and classroom knowledge to form teams and create research supported habitat plans represented to professional zoologists, and you have given them tasks related to that, so they are solving the problems and they are coming up to the solutions also. Then another example I can give you, that is code breaker. So instead of regular math lessons, let students lead with code breaking problem based learning assignment. Students take on the role of security agent, which is tasked with descripting a message, coding a new one in written, and presenting their findings to the classroom. Another example I can give you, which is that is financial advisors as well. Challenge your students to step into the role of financial advisor and decide how to spend an allotted amount of money in a way the most benefits their community. So have them present their solution and explain their reasoning to the class as well. So this is how the students are learning more and more in problem based learning, because here the teacher is giving them ample opportunities for learning. So when the students are learning by solving the problem, by applying their theoretical knowledge into practical form, then this type of learning is definitely most fantastic learning. So PBL is definitely good and it has lots of advantages. And any subject area can be adapted to PBL with a little creativity. So with the core problems will vary among disciplines. There are some um, beautiful characteristics which I have discussed of PBL. And the problem must motivate students to seek out a deeper understanding of the concepts. The problem should require students to make reasoned decisions and to defend them. So this is how it's really very important and meaningful for any student to learn the concepts by solving the problem. So let's understand it in a more beautiful way that it helps in the development of constructivism. As I've already told you, that it is really very interesting in developing the cognitive skills of the student. So it allows for multiple intelligence development and it offers opportunities of extended time frames and it provides a deeper understanding of the knowledge. So it's really very helpful in that. So it develops in developing good study habits. It affords opportunities for participation in social activities as well. The learners learn here to be self-dependent because they are solving the problems in group, and discussion will help develop the power of expression of students. It also provides opportunities to the teachers to know their students in detail. So students learn the facts that they are meaningful and have been discovered by their own efforts. So it helps in the maintenance of discipline as well. The next we are talking about learning becomes more interesting in place of dread. When the child is active and the child is uh, skillful and child is working with thinking skills, so learning automatically becomes very interesting and it's really very a challenging task for any teacher to maintain the interest of the students and encourage them to learn the concepts throughout. So it gives the power of critical judgment of situations, what kind of problem, analyzing the different dimensions of the problem. Then it also helps in verifying an option. Then it satisfies curiosity of the students that why they are solving the problem. It also helps learners to how to react in a new situations. So overall, it's really very important for any student to learn that. But apart from advantages, we have some disadvantages also. So PBS involves mental activity only. So there is a lack of suitable references and source books for the learners. And I really believe that students, when we are talking about disadvantages, so I don't personally think that there is any disadvantage, but the student is actually engaged in some kind of learning activities that it is going to help him. But advantages are more in number and the learning efficiency is definitely going to increase of the students. And then another disadvantage that we can quote that it involves a lot of time and teachers find it difficult to cover the prescribed syllabus. So problem solving method need very capable teachers to provide effective guidance as well. Now conclusion is there, and in conclusion we can say students that the studies reviewed above suggests that PBL is an effective teaching and learning approach, particularly when it is evaluated for long-term knowledge retention and applications. One gap in earlier studies on the effectiveness of PBL is that the studies tended to focus on another education. So, however, there are now increasing number of experiments in any field or disciplines that provide evidence of the superior performance of students learning in PBL condition as opposed to lecture conditions. So, in terms of which phases or components of the PBL processes influence the students' learning, causal model suggests that the PBL process, as described by the PBL literature, that begins with problem analysis, followed by self directed learning. And a subsequent reporting phase is important to protect students' learning, and that having only the collaborative component or the self directed learning component is insufficient. However, another study suggests that the student engagement with the problem is sufficient to enhance the students' learning gains over the traditional approach, and the collaborative component did not make a significant difference to students' learning. So, more rigorous control, experimental studies, therefore, need to be carried out further uncover the mechanism behind how the PBI is working. So PBI is something that there the problem should incorporate the content objectives in such a way as to connect it to previous courses or knowledge. So it used for a group project. The problem needs a level of complexity and to ensure that the student must work together to solve it. And if used for a multi-stage project, the initial steps for problem should be open-ended and engaging to draw students' attention for solving the problem. So the problems can come from a variety of sources like newspapers, magazines, journals, books, textbooks, and television movies. So some are in such form that they can be used with the little editing. However, others need to be written to be of use. So, the guidelines from the power of problem based learning are well written for creating PBL problems for a class centered around the method. However, the general ideas can be applied in simpler uses of PBL, like choosing a central idea or principle that it is always taught in a given course, and then think of a typical and end of chapter problem assignment or homework that is usually assigned to the students to help them learn that concept. So list the learning objectives that students should meet with when they work through the problem. So think of a real world context for the concept of understand consideration. Develop a storytelling aspect to an end of chapter problem or research an actual case that can be adapted. So adding some motivation or students to solve the problem. More complex problems will challenge students to go beyond simple plug and joke to solve it. So look at magazines, newspapers, articles for ideas on the storylines. Some PBL practitioners talk to professionals in the field, searching for ideas of realistic applications of the concept being taught. So, students, I really believe that you are learning. So, the method of distributing PBL problem falls under three closely related teaching techniques: case studies, role playing, and simulations. Case studies are presented to students in written form. Role plays have students improvise scenes based on character descriptions given. Today's simulations often involve computer based programs. So, regardless of which technique is used, the heart of the method remains the same, the real world problem. And it is definitely going to teach the students. All right, so this was about conclusion. Now there are some references, students, for your more study, and I really believe that you are going to study and revise the concept of problem based learning. Now let's have some MCQs with you, and I really believe that the correct answer you are going to write in my comment box. All right, so the question is, the what is problem based learning? Option A, an education model used only in kindergarten. Option B, an education model that poses a question and allows students to research answers. Question C, Option C, an education model that relies on lectures and notes. Option D, an education model led by teachers that uses memorization and testing. So you can give answer in my comment box, but the correct answer which I'm telling you, that is option B, an education model that poses a question and allows the students to research answers. This is how what we have studied just now. Now, next question. What is the end project for PBL called? Final production, B. Cooperative experience, C. Finale, D. Culminating project. So you are going to give me the answer in my comment box. So I really believe that you have learned a lot through PBL, and PBL is really very effective in teaching the students in learning process. So students, it's really very important for you because all of you are going to become prospective teachers, and for prospective teachers it's really very important to understand that students learn better by provoking their thinking skills, by making them interested towards the classroom content, and by encouraging them. So, PBL is such a method where the teacher is posing a question in front of the students, and the students are actually defining it, explaining it, looking at the different dimensions of the problem by identifying it properly. So this is really wonderful method of teaching learning process, and I really believe that you have enjoyed my lecture today. So students, see you in the next class. Till then, stay safe, stay happy, and keep studying. Thank you, students.